Hey man, stay safe world, you already know what's going on. So big news came this week when Tory Lanez decided to ditch his former attorney and hire David KENNER, the attorney most known with actually being responsible for getting Snoop Dogg off his murder, accessory, and a whole host of other charges in 1993, man. The story of how he was able to do that is actually super crazy. You know, a lot of outlets were reporting the fact that he was Suge Knight's appeal lawyer, and I really feel like this story of how he got Snoop Dogg off this murder charge is one of the craziest stories in the hip-hop world, man. We're gonna get into it right now, but before we do, I'm gonna need y'all to like, comment, subscribe. We're gonna run at this video. Make sure y'all check out the merch too, link in the description at staysafeworld.com, man. So let's get it. So this all started in 1993, but the trial was through 95 and 96, and at the time it was one of the biggest things going on because Snoop Dogg had basically ascended to being the face of gangster rap music, especially in the West Coast, man. He was charged with murder, voluntary manslaughter, conspiracy to commit, assault, accessory to murder after the fact. Man, he got a not guilty on murder, assault, and accessory charges, and a mistrial on voluntary manslaughter charges. So he was able to get off scot-free, man. We're gonna get into that shit right now. Let's go. The case was actually a general debate over whether gangster rap contributed to or merely reflected gunplay, drug abuse, sexual violence, street gang warfare, and other social ills. And that was like a main theme of this whole trial. And when it was shown on TV, that's basically what it came down to. People were arguing that gangster rap, it was like an ongoing thing, that gangster rap was contributing to like inner city violence, when in reality gangster rap was sort of documenting the inner city reality, man. So this story all starts on the afternoon of August 25th, 1993, when rising rap star Calvin Brodus, better known as Snoop Dogg, heard a commotion in the street outside his Los Angeles apartment. As Brodus watched, his bodyguard McKinley Malik Lee went outside to investigate. Lee found a carload of street gang members arguing with Sean Abrams, one of Snoop Dogg's friends. Lee's appearance ended the argument, but as the car departed, Snoop Dogg basically thought he recognized one of the occupants as a man who had recently accosted him with a pistol at a video filming. The gang member was Philip Woldemariam, a 20-year-old Ethiopian immigrant. That was just the beginning of this shit. But later that day, with Lee and Abrams accompanying him, Snoop Dogg was driving his Jeep past a park when he encountered Woldemariam again. Accounts of the encounter would differ, but there was no dispute over the fact that Lee shot and mortally wounded Woldemariam. Police found Woldemariam's bloody corpse in a nearby car park. Murder charges were filed against Brodus, Lee, and Abrams, all of whom had disappeared into hiding. While Snoop Dogg's attorney negotiated the terms of surrender and bail, the rap star appeared at a televised music awards ceremony on September 2nd and shouted his innocence.
I'm innocent. I'm innocent.
To a cheering audience. He turned himself in later that night. Man, that's some crazy shit. Like, people be talking about how Tory Lanez, like that trial was super crazy. Imagine if Tory Lanez went to the fucking Grammys or the BET Awards or MTV Awards and was like, I'm innocent, when he was clearly on the run, man. And then he was able to get a not guilty after leaving the scene of the crime. What, man? Like, this lawyer is like goddamn Superman, man. The killing occurred as Snoop Dogg was becoming the most popular rap star in America. His debut album, Doggy Style, released several months after the shooting incident, sold over 5 million copies. One of the songs, Murder Was a Charge, was promoted heavily by his record label in a video that features Snoop Dogg as a man who kills someone in self-defense, but is convicted of murder. The notoriety of Snoop Dogg's impending trial fed his celebrity and attracted the ire of critics who blamed gangster rap for glorifying the gang-related violence plaguing urban communities. But other rap artists basically responded that their work was an accurate reflection of existing mayhem, not its inspiration. Although he was concentrating on his musical career at the time, of the Walderman shooting, Snoop Dogg has served prison time for selling crack cocaine and had been a member of the Long Beach Insane Crips, a long-established Los Angeles street gang. Waldermarian belonged to an upstart gang called the Yourself Hustlers. Police theorized that the shooting incident was just one more of thousands of fatal gang-related confrontations. Other observers proposed that Waldermarian's shooting was a case of Snoop Dogg's life imitating his art. Charges against Sean Abrams were dropped by the time the case came to court over 2 years later. When testimony began in November 27, 1995, the trial immediately centered on the conduct of the LAPD, who alleged mishandling of evidence in the recently decided O.J. Simpson murder trial had been cited as a major reason for Simpson's controversial acquittal. The prosecutor tried to minimize any damage to this case by admitting in open statements that some evidence, including Waldermarian's bloody clothing, a bullet, and a shell casing, had disappeared while in police possession. Man, how does the evidence always be disappearing? I think that was like a whole narrative in the Tory Lanez case also, because they were saying that the bullet fragments that were originally there like disappeared or some shit. Man, the LAPD, they be like high school levels of keeping everything together, man. That's when niggas be losing papers and shit in high school, not losing evidence in a murder trial, man. Like, that's crazy. But jurors who had been examined about any negative impressions the Simpson case might have had on their opinion of the city system rolled their eyes at Neeson's admissions. Despite the police department's mistakes, Neeson persistently argued that Snoop Dogg and Lee had hunted down Waldermarian over a gang-related insult and had shot him in the back. The prosecution's problems were not confined to the missing evidence. The defense held that Lee had only fired in self-defense when Waldermarian ran toward Snoop Dogg's Jeep while reaching for a gun in his waistband. Yet no gun had been found on Waldermarian's body. Two fellow gang members who had witnessed the shooting initially told police that the dead man had been unarmed when Lee shot him. By the time the trial began, they recanted their stories and admitted they had hidden a pistol Waldermarian had been carrying. Yo, wait, what? That's crazy. I wonder why they admitted that. That's crazy, man. That's like basically saying that you're gonna fucking go to jail and shit. Defense attorney David Kenner seized the opportunity to discredit the incriminating testimony upon the murder indictments relied so heavily. Kenner grilled prosecution witness Jason London, who admitted that he and fellow gang members Deshaun Joseph had hidden Waldermarian's gun. London denied that he and Joseph had taken the weapon to make Waldermarian appear to have been the defenseless victim, or that they had tried to incriminate Lee and Snoop Dogg by denying the gun's existence to police. I guess they were just hiding it so they didn't get caught with it. Nevertheless, the defense had succeeded in bringing his implication before the jury. London also admitted that Waldermarian had a reputation for irrational behavior and that Snoop Dogg had played no part in earlier confrontation at his apartment complex. The prosecution ridiculed claims that Lee had used his gun to protect himself and Snoop Dogg. In the prosecution scenario, the location of Waldermarian's wounds proved that he was an innocent victim. The LA County Medical Examiner was called to confirm that Waldermarian had been shot in the back and buttocks. Under cross-examination, however, the examiner admitted that his report noted the wounds were lateral, implying that the bullets that hit Waldermarian traveled sideways through his body, not necessarily from back to front. Yo, so the plot thickened. So then on February 20th, 1996, after 6 days of deliberations, the jury resulted in a not guilty verdict on the murder charges against Brodus and Lee, aka Snoop Dogg, and his bodyguard. The defendants sat silently as their supporters cheered, causing Judge Paul Flynn to threaten to clear the courtroom. The jury remained deadlocked on the voluntary manslaughter and accessory charge. On February 21st, jurors acquitted Snoop Dogg on the accessory charge, but informed Judge Flynn that they remained deadlocked 9-3 in favor of acquittal on the involuntary manslaughter charge and could not agree. Judge Flynn then declared a mistrial. And then that's where that famous video of Snoop Dogg expressing his relief at being allowed to return to his career, unhampered by the electronic surveillance ankle bracelet he was ordered to wear for like mad long. And then the LA District Attorney's Office declined to try Snoop Dogg or Lee a second time on the unresolved voluntary manslaughter charge, but legal issues remain. Walderman's family filed a $25 million wrongful lawsuit against Snoop Dogg. The suit was settled out of court for an undisclosed sum in 1996, nearly 3 years to the day that Walden Marion died. Man, so that would have not been possible if it weren't for David Kenner, man. It's a crazy ass story, and a lot of people would have thought that, like, if you took something like that to trial, you would end up a dub, but he was able to get it through. And maybe if Tory Lanez had him the first time around, it sounds like a very similar type of case, except someone actually died in this case rather than someone still being alive pointing it out. But, you know, the fact that they were able to get those two gang members to switch in court and kind of explain what was happening and basically say they weren't hiding it to make them look innocent, they were just hiding the gun so they didn't get in trouble, man, that's like, who would have thought of that? I feel like people's back against the wall would have accepted a plea deal in that case. But, you know, I guess there's a time and place for everything, and this dude seems like a pretty good lawyer, especially if they were trusting him with their lives like that, man. Maybe Tory Lanez needed him from the jump, man. But hey, let me know in the comments what y'all think about that shit.